And welcome back, everyone. You can see I'm a little bit more lounging at the moment, mostly because I got out of work maybe an hour ago. I want to veg, but I also know I got at least one video to do. So I'm giving you the middleman of this, where I'm like, yeah, I am totally here, but I'm also totally relaxed. But last time, on the My Hero What If, Deku got his provisional license. He was also chosen to be the successor for One for All. Now, Deku at the moment has not had a lot of practice with One for All, so he's still going to be susceptible to the bone-breaking, limb-breaking aspects of it until he trains up enough to understand full cowling and how that works. With that said, though, I did come to the conclusion that, except for Zoans, basically any other, at least with at minimum with Parameciums, him getting One for All should awaken the Devil Fruit. This is just due to the fact that One for All enhances not just the physicality, but also your quirk factor as well. It strengthens quirks. So logically, it could work on a Devil Fruit, at least with some varieties, and actually awaken the Devil Fruit just by taking it. So Deku now has the ability to actually make larger arrows. He can also just convert the environment into arrows, which is kind of nuts when you think about how powerful this quirk is already. But Bakugo sees Deku's improvement. He sees the enhanced physicality. He sees just all of this, and he's just pissed off with him. And he just asks him, "Meet me here at this time." And so Midoriya does. And there's Bakugo, basically bitching and moaning like he normally does. But Midoriya's like, "I don't want to fight you." He's like, "You're gonna fight me and like it, Midoriya." And also, it should be noted that he's probably noticed that lately, not since the beginning of class, but lately, All Might's been paying a bit more attention to Midoriya. So why is that? Well, he wants to know. And Bakugo once again starts attacking Midoriya. Midoriya's just making shields with his arrows. Stop it, Bakugo! I don't want to fight you. Well, you're gonna have to. He just creates a big, call it a smoke screen, if you will. Smoke debris screen, if you he obscures Midoriya's vision, comes in, actually does start laying in on him a bit. Midoriya isn't able to block it all. And then finally Midoriya has to get at least a little bit serious. He curves his arrows into kind of like boxing gloves and just launches them at Bakugo. And sends Bakugo flying. Bakugo catches himself, and they are, excuse me one second, and no, this is not booze. I've kind of actually learned to when drinking seltzer to kind of like, I have a shot glass here because I have a bar in the back right there. And be like, so he's like, oh yeah, it helps actually pace myself so I don't overstimulate my stomach with carbonation. Because if I'm just chugging seltzer, it will just cause my acid reflux to once again go absolutely nuts. But that's because of the carbonation, not because of anything else. Anyway, so Bakugo, this is where Bakugo basically just says, it kind of admits to Midoriya how he's feeling. So, and why was it it's my fault? Why did the hero of Civil of Peace have to do that? Why? And then Midoriya finally understands, like, fine, get ready, Bakugo. It's like, and they're squaring off. Midoriya is not using One for All. Clearly he's not. But with his quirk awakened, he doesn't need to. And so he and Bakugo squaring off. Bakugo tries to hit him, but Midoriya is just creating walls of nearly indestructible arrows. And the minute that Bakugo gets onto the ground, Midoriya just turns the ground into arrows and starts to wrap them up. Now, I think the catch here with these arrows, the ones that he manifests from the environment, is that they take on the properties of the environment. They're not the nigh indestructible ones he creates. They're as durable as the environment allows them to be. And Bakugo quickly figures this out. And so he's destroying like the ones that kind of wrap around him, only for Midoriya to only grab him and just kind of splay him like Jesus. Not this time. He's using the momentum to try to the explosions try to move him, but Midoriya's just keeping him in place, and it's like, this is over, and he just kind of pulls Bakugo in, just wraps himself up into wraps his arm in like a fist, just boom, and puts Bakugo into the ground. And so Midoriya would actually win this fight. Truth be told, he could have won it very easily from the beginning. But All Might shows up, and Bakugo's still upset. I'm sorry to put this burden on you. That's not what I want to hear, you idiot. Sorry. Nice little step. There we go. And so They still end up getting in trouble. Bakugo's a little mellowed out, but he doesn't know about One for All. Or, I mean, maybe he could. It all depends on how generous All Might could be with this. He points out that you've been paying special attention to Midoriya. Why is that? Why? As if because he's like me in many ways. What about me? Bakugo's like, I'm sorry, poor Bakugo. You didn't deserve this. Like, that's not what I want to hear, you idiot. So yeah, he pretty much figures it out, and they allow him to understand this, know the secret of the quirks or the quirk. Time would be passing, and Midoriya would probably be training on the sly with All Might to figure out One for All, to try to not break his body every time he does it. And because of that, I think he could bring Gran Torino into this. It's very possible he could do that. And in fact, he maybe doesn't. He could even do an internship with Gran Torino. He did a work study with him. He could do it with Gran Torino. But Torino doesn't want. Even said, "I didn't want to be your hero. There was a time I needed to use my quirk freely. So that was the reason I became a hero." It's very possible he could go do the internship with Gran Torino, but because Gran Torino is not actually a listed hero, it's debatable or not whether or not he could do that. Gran Torino is the one who actually came to All Might and suggested, "Oh, I'll train him," but here he doesn't quite know about Midoriya, so I don't think he's got full Cowling quite yet. What does happen though is that they meet the big three. Mirio challenges Class 1A. Now, what would be interesting here is that even though Mirio has his quirk, Midoriya also has his quirk. And Midoriya, predicts where he's going to be. Mirio's like, "Hey, that's impressive." And he's about to do the whole finger touch on Midoriya. And Midoriya's like, "No." But Midoriya here actually has, the arrows. And so they kind of go through each other. And basically, Midoriya's quickly learning, I got to get him in a counterattack. That's what I have to do. And so he is, eventually they're kind of going back and forth a bit with that, which eventually leads to Mirio having to trick Deku more than Deku tricks him. And basically, instead of countering, Mirio actually says, "All right, fine," lets himself get hit. It's like, "What?" And just, and knocks Midoriya. I was like, "You're good, Midoriya. I wasn't able to hit you because I couldn't hit you because I'd get her injured. So I took the injury on purpose, because that's what heroes do. We endure the pain of others so we can make them smile." And so then he beats the rest of Class 1A. Now, I think he could offer the internship to Night Eye, who would initially reject Deku. And the other thing too that Mirio would have to deal with is the fact that Midoriya can redirect his physical attacks, with his arrows. So that'd be another thing. He's like, "What?" But Night Eye, at best, Midoriya is barely learning how to use full Cowling. Like, maybe he's kind of starting to get the idea of it. But yeah, no, Night Eye still probably is a jerk. Because really, it's, again, Night Eye. I get where Night Eye was coming from. I do get where he was coming from. But he was like, "I don't accept you." Well, that's too freaking bad. Because it wasn't your choice. So he still gives Midoriya the test. Now, the very big difference here is simply you got to get this before the time runs out. Midoriya, tries to grab the arrows, but he can't seem to do it. He's avoiding all his arrows until Midoriya just summons arrows from the floor and wraps around Night Eye's legs, and then all of a sudden wraps around. It's like, it's like, got it. Like, Night Eye kind of realized very quickly, looking into the future, like, how am I going to be able to, I can't avoid everything here. He's just going to he's realized looking into the future that this is a quirk I can't avoid for very long. He's going to figure out how to get me. And so he probably just puts the arrow back into the ground. "Sorry about that, Sir Night Eye." It's like, "No, very well, you pass." And he just kind of begrudgingly accepts. Kind of like he did. I think he kind of did that originally as well. He just begrudgingly accepted him because he chose not to hit his All Mights. And so they would end up meeting Overhaul and Eri. Then their interaction would go the same, easy. And then you wouldn't get Midoriya back into the story again until he has to fight Overhaul. Now, this would be very problematic for Midoriya. His quirk, as good as it is, it wouldn't really give him a lot of protection from Overhaul's quirk if Overhaul's, affecting the ground below Midoriya. Like, Midoriya could jump up, but he'd have to grab onto his arrows and, like, float in the air for that. Now, he can still fire the arrows at Overhaul, but Overhaul's got one of those quirks that actually could just take his arrows out. Sure, similar to how Shigaraki can probably disintegrate or decay the quirks, Overhaul's, I can't actually remember what it's called, but essentially his destructure and restructuring quirk could take care of the arrow. And so Midoriya is realizing very quickly, like, holy crap, he can actually deconstruct my arrows. But that's not going to stop me. He just slices more arrows off. Just, you can take it, can't you? Well, take this. And then he actually skewers Overhaul pretty good, and like sticks him to the walls, like, you, and he just hits himself, and just restructures himself. And the problem is he has the arrows in him, so I imagine he restructures himself with the arrows, and the arrows kind of like show up in his form, and he's like the strengthening himself with the durability arrows. The arrows no longer are piercing him. It's like, is that the best you could do? And then he's like, it's like, I won't let you hurt Harry. And just summons he makes a giant fist out of the arrows. Just, boom! And Overhaul once again, just, your quirk's mine! And now he's just armored up in these nigh indestructible arrows, as Midoriya is trying to get Eri out of there on this arrow bird he made. He's like, I gotta get you out of here, Eri. Get Eri back! And he just, gets out. He's this floating mass. It's like, it's okay, Eri, I got you. The kind of hero, I'm the kind of hero, what kind of person does this to the little girl? Yeah, we'll return the world back to the way it used to be. This the precious state of good and evil, the way it was before. It's like, I'm not gonna let you hurt Eri, not anymore. And it's the famous, like, the kind of hero that anyone can rely on. That's the kind of hero I want to be. But the difference here is that Midoriya just literally doesn't have the physicality to hurt this guy anymore. He just doesn't have that. Now, that being said, he still has his arrows. So, he starts fighting, creating more giant arrows. They barely scratch him. I'm one with your quirk, boy. There's nothing more you can do. He's stretching his, I can't hurt him. I can't pierce him. Wait. And that's when Midoriya's eyes just kind of like widen. It's like, he's one with my quirk. And he just stops and just thinks and goes, couldn't be. And just said, let's try it. And then just, what? And just kind of almost magnetoing him a little bit. Just, almost he's like creaking. It's like, you fused my arrows, but they're still my arrows, which means they obey me, not you. And he just boom, 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 starts wailing him around. I'm making sure no one's gonna get hurt, but he takes him back into the hole basically, and just starts boom, 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 boom. And he started. I bet you're gonna probably want to be separated from those arrows in a second, aren't you? And he's like trying to touch himself, but he can't. That sounded wrong. But he's trying to grab a hold, use his quirk on himself, and he can't do it. Midoriya says like, "Here, let me help you," and just starts. And all of a sudden, he's just feeling just the arrows are ripping themselves out of his body. Just he's able to heal himself. And all of a sudden, now he just sees the rain of arrows above him, and they're just floating above him, and just like, all I need to do is touch it again. You won't be able to hurt me. And it's like, no, you're not going to be able to hurt anyone, not anymore. And so Midoriya's like, I'm not going to kill you. That's not what a hero does, but I will stop you any way I have to. I'll stop you. Because that's what I will not let you. Because I'm not going to let a little girl suffer. That's the kind of hero I want to be. And then the arrows kind of conjoin into bigger arrows, and just like, he literally just takes his arms clean off. Just, my arms! No, and then just and he just kind of like ties him up and just my arms. Like the arm can't move or anything like that. It's already kind of went a little cold on him there, or cruel on him, but he kind of had to. seems you've been disarmed. But yeah, he just kind of like he binds him up. He could have choked him out, but he would just grab the arrow before that happened. And so he just basically puts Shigaraki out and just like, oh man. It's like, Deku, are you okay? Midoriya-san? Or redirect. I believe that was this hero name I gave him. Redirect you. Fine, Eri. No worries. And she's gonna run whatsoever. And obviously Eri's power starts to go crazy before Aizawa goes in. But granted, actually, no, it wouldn't go crazy. She's not using her power here. So, that leads us into the school festival arc. Midoriya now would be starting to get a handle of full cowling, because time is passing between these. And so he's training with it, actually now starting to get full cowling down. He's still on the bare minimum, like 5%, but still, he's starting to get it down. There's no need to use the gloves. Midoriya, though, would still encounter Gentle. This would be interesting, because he could elastize his arrows. So it goes boing. It's like, what the? Sorry, I don't have time for you. And so, he tries to stop him. Midoriya's, he's using the arrows for to increase his momentum. So, it lines him up, just flies right into it. It's like, just hits him right in the face, full cowling as far as it can go. And basically, they duke it out. Now, he can't go more than 5%, but Deku here could easily beat Gentle if he wanted to. It's more that he doesn't want to hurt this guy. He sees a lot of himself in this guy. He even claimed that this was the hardest fight. Yeah, you were the strongest opponent I've ever faced, but you were the most difficult opponent I ever faced. But that does not equate to strength. That's more of him having to deal with him in his own way, in what he represented. And so, he gets put in the ground. That leads us into, and using his arrows, he could probably put on a great show for Eri, all that, which leads us into the joint training arc. And I always kind of like these because I like kind of tournament style, arcs, which the sports festival definitely was. This one also kind of felt like it, if we're going to be honest. But, big thing here is that One for All is not going haywire yet. It's not going wonky. He's maybe up to his 8%. Bako's like, I'm even stronger than before, so watch out. It's like, cool, don't you cheer for me. So Midoriya wouldn't have to do anything until the final fight. And with Shinso, now here's the thing, he probably would have taken Monoma out or Shinso out, or he would have at least injured him with the air pressure blast had One for All not, just gone haywire. Here, he doesn't need to do that. Mind you, he's not using the air pressure blast, but he's flying on his arrows. He's being attacked, but he puts up arrow shields. He can use his arrows effectively against Monoma, against Shinso, without any real difficulty. I think he's able to kind of bag this win up without too much of an issue. And then there's the fast forward. Now, he still do, I think, the internship with Endeavor. He gets more control over One for All. And I think around that point is when his quirks start, like the first one, Black Whip, kind of starts to kind of kick in at one point. Like he's got it trying to grab something, and that's when Black Whip suddenly activates. And he explains it to All Might. All Might explains to him what's going on. So when we get to that initial confrontation in the first League of Heroes, or League of Villains, invasion, Midoriya is probably somewhere in the 20s, not the 35. He also probably only has Black Whip at this time, which he did initially, and he's only just got a hang of it. So when Shigaraki's like, Midoriya, please hand over One for All, and Midoriya's like, hell no, boom, they're clashing. Now, can Midoriya put Shigaraki down? Because he can just keep creating arrows. Without his quirk, Shigaraki doesn't have a way to get rid of the arrows. So Midoriya, it's like, just gonna choke you out until you pass out. It's like, I can't, no. So he's in a panic. He's got to basically turn off Aizawa's quirk. And he's slicing his own, how cool you are, this is still gonna hurt. You're still gonna flinch. So can he basically have access again to his decay quirk before he passes out? And knowing Shigaraki, he'd do it in desperation, so yes, he probably could. And yeah, so he's finally like, Midoriya, it wasn't really cool of you. And they kind of clash. Midoriya would activate. Midoriya's probably somehow activated float. You know, he uses like Black Whip to save everyone. He's also using his arrows too. So now he's also got Black Whip with his arrows. So he can kind of augment his arrows and augment Black Whip with him. So he creates the black arrows, which he now is more freely manipulating. He's like creating like this Doc Ock kind of like pinwheel of death, if you will, just like creating almost like buzzsaws or like giant energy shurikens of energy with the between his arrows and the Black Whip. Plus, he can like mold Black Whip into like a giant construct, so he creates like an arrow sword and just creates Black Whip. So they're clashing, and Black Whip being energy means it can't be decayed. So he's wrapping himself up in energy that can't be decayed, but he's also breaking his lens, but he doesn't care. He's trying to put Shigaraki down to the ground. He skewers him at one point. Shigaraki just decays them. They clash again. Eventually, One for All. All for One shows up in the Mindscape and wants all One for All, and they're like, nope, not gonna happen. And so, I don't think because of the nature of the way Midoriya's quirk works, I don't think he'd be able to put Shigaraki down in this version, sadly. Because of the K, he can just kind of get through a wall of the arrows without any issue. But he's not complete yet. Shigaraki's like, wait, what day is it? And so he's like, sorry, that's not going to work. And, they leave. They basically surrender is what happens. Or he surrenders, or not surrenders, but he forfeits the fight and they go and do their thing. Midoriya, this would be the start of his vigilante arc. Really, it would go about the same. Lady Nagat would be, frankly, a lot easier. You add Fajin and Gear Shift with this quirk. Oh, it's Good Night Irene. It's Good Night Irene for if he wanted to be an assassin, he could just create Gear Shift an arrow, small arrow, just pew, just done, just pew, straight to the head, done. If Deku wanted to go evil with his quirk, and with all of his other quirks, he'd be a menace. But he's not. He's a good guy at the end. Still, he would beat Lady Nagat. Basically, he's just creating armor out of his arrows. And now the bullet just doesn't pierce him. Oh, man. I mean, do I just want to end this video here? Not here, but do I want to wrap it up? Might as well. We're not even at the 25-minute mark. I'd intended to maybe go one more video, but either way. They bring Deku back. His One for All is not where it should be, but he's got access to all the other quirks. Now, the big difference here is that when the final battle happens, Toga's not infatuated with Deku. She's not. So, he isn't taken away from the battlefield, which gives him more time to fight Shigaraki. And now using Gear Shift in the quirks, he tries to choke out Shigaraki again because, he can't use his quirks, but the quirk singularity caused him to evolve countermeasures just with his normal body that aren't even quirks. So, like, his neck gets too thick for the arrow. He doesn't snap it, but it's like, oh, crap. But all right, fine. Using Gear Shift combined with the arrows, he's basically just tearing Shigaraki up. Of course, he realizes quickly, tries to take a hand off. The arm actually grows out of the arm. He does have, a super healing factor now. It's like, that's not going to work. So they're clashing over and over again. He's just binding him in arrows. But he realizes quickly, I can't contain him because if I do, he'll have access to his quirks again. So that's the kicker here for him, is that he keeps going into combat using Fajin, putting him into the ground. His quirk this particular quirk or this particular devil fruit is great, but against Shigaraki, it's just not great. It's one thing when he had, say, like the Goro Goro no Mi, the lightning fruit, or the Rumble fruit, I think it's called. Yeah, the Rumble fruit, the lightning Logia. Because at that point, Shigaraki's got nothing. Nothing. I don't know if he has a quirk that absorbs energy like lightning or something that makes him like rubber, but he doesn't have an answer to, he can't touch Midoriya. Here, though, even though these arrows are strong, they're still tangible. They're a physical thing he can grab. And even Stars and Stripes' durability was pushed to its limit with his decay. We've never seen something in My Hero that's been labeled indestructible. There's no adamantium substitute in this world. There's no, There's no vibranium. There's no, like, we just never seen him go up against something that's declared nigh indestructible. So I'd have to assume he can, if it's not truly indestructible, he could decay. It might like take a little bit more time, but he could do it. Midoriya though still would be like just to like skewer him as best he can. Also redirecting his attacks and just boom, and then of course using gear shift. That's the thing. He's using gear shift on the arrows. Like I said, he's blitzing him without ever even trying. Eventually though, All for One would show up to the battle. Well, no, he wouldn't show up to the battle because All Might and Bakugo would both, keep him at bay. And then it's like, time to go Betty Pie, All for One. Which still, what badass moment for Bakugo, man. It's still fantastic. Still just looks so freaking great. Eventually, it would get to the point where Midoriya is tiring himself out to the point where now the vestiges have to fight him. Midoriya probably loses his arms, but Eri comes in, gives him his arms back. And, he comes in, and this time, he uses his arrow along with One for All. And basically, instead of punching him, it's more like a slash. And just, like an arrow, just, basically kind of like in Pacific Rim when he cut the Kaiju's wings off, just, and then, or Shigaraki obviously would, disintegrate, disappear. And so Midoriya would still have his Devil Fruit ability. He'd still have it. And he would still be the hero who always directs, the hero who finds the way, the redirection. And so you would end with him still being a hero and a teacher, telling anyone that they can be a hero. Again, I'm not quite sure how the plate guy can be a hero, but again, if his quirk awakens and he can now just shoot these things off his head, like pew, like that, then there you go. Anyone can be a hero, kids. But yeah, all's well that ends well for Deku. And so, yeah, we wrap it up on episode 5. Now join us on Saturday when we do the Zanpakuto video for Deku. But first, we're going to have to put a poll up for that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.